welcome to another episode of Between the Studs. I'm your host, Mark. Today I'm joined by Joe and Daniel. Joe, glad to have you back.
I'll have her tongue.
Yes, from his trip to New Zealand. You might hear about it at some point. You might do Between the Studs.
Maybe we will.
Anyway, today we're not doing that kind of Between the Studs. We're actually talking about the most underrated LEGO themes. And what qualifies that? Well, it just has to be underrated in some way. Maybe nobody knows about it. Maybe it wasn't produced enough. Maybe it's just kind of rare. I think the most thing is you don't know about it. It's going to be a great discussion. We've all picked out
Can I make a joke now?
No jokes. Okay, we've all picked at least five different themes that LEGO's produced over the years, and these are going to be what we're going to be talking about today. These are underrated by our opinions, and we'll actually argue a bit, I think, because you had some from Joe's.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. Who wants to go first?
Daniel.
Wait, can I make my joke now?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, you said nobody knew about these, but we know about these. So does that make us losers or schmucks?
Are we
or
nerds now?
nerds
I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
you
that's
know
kind of
about
the point of the podcast.
Do you know about these?
Yeah.
Were you going to talk about them? You didn't know anything about them?
Underrated.
What are we talking about? Why am I here?
All right, you go first.
Who am I?
Underrated isn't unknown. Okay, so go ahead, Joe. What's your
You're
first?
see, when
I'm
you
in
go
the
to
middle.
Australia, your brainstem gets
I went to
inverted
New
and turned upside.
Zealand.
So he's still.
If you call New Zealand Australia,
still,
they'll get you.
The riot.
He's still
I'll get you.
recalibrating for the northern hemisphere.
But
You want me to go first? All right, fine.
you're
I'm
on
going to
the
go
end.
first.
Daniel's going first.
I didn't pick a dedicated order, so I'm just going to go with the order they wrote them down in.
Okay.
My first underrated theme is studios.
What's that, Daniel?
Well, Joe, Studios is a great theme from 1990-something.
Whoa, that's so long ago.
But there were. What's interesting about it is there were a lot of different sort of sub themes. So there was like Hollywood monsters.
Mm-hmm.
There was like Wolfman and Frankenstein, and there was a Dracula
minifigures.
one.
The Mummy. The
Yeah.
Mummy.
But they had, camera crews that were filming it, which is where I think it got a little lost on people. They would have rather it just been the other thing. But it's fine. You can have the build without the camera crews and stuff.
You have like pirate figures with a camera crew. Yeah.
Yep. There were ones that reused lots of parts from other, not like licensed themes, but LEGO IPs. So there were adventurers ones that were kind of leaning into Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Or Jurassic Park even.
There were Jurassic Park ones as well, yep.
Officially
The Jurassic Park ones
They're
was
licensed.
actually one of the first officially licensed LEGO sets, apart from some weird
Star Wars
other
and,
old stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting theme that had these camera crews reenacting these scenes, but I really love the classic monsters ones. The vampire, the Frankenstein, all that stuff is really cool, and I think people sleep on that pretty often.
They've
there
never
were some
heard of it.
really
Yeah.
great printed parts, especially.
There's also the
and
Green
stickers.
Goblin, right? Isn't that a studio set?
Sort of,
I
yeah.
think that was a studio
I
set.
think some of those
His
early
little
Spider-Man
glider.
ones, yeah. But there were interesting things. So Star Wars fans always talk about the really rare George Lucas minifigure, but what usually comes up with studios is the director minifigure is pretty much like a dead ringer for Steven Spielberg, which is what a lot of those things, like the Jurassic Park, the Indiana Jones, those are all Steven Spielberg
Makes
films.
sense, yeah.
So, he's a guy with glasses and the beard combo with the kind of grayish color. So
Exactly.
some interesting things from that.
It's not called that, but it's like,
yeah.
Right, exactly. And they had director on the back and things like that. So
That's
good
awesome.
stuff.
Very cool theme. I definitely agree that is an underrated theme because they're not they're collectible, but they're not at all expensive. Some of them, maybe the monster ones are a little more hard to find, but
They can only be expensive in the sense that you really just don't see them that often.
Yeah.
We barely ever get them in the store. We have one right now that's really weird. We have a graded and slabbed copy of, I think, the vampire one.
It's the vampire one.
the
Vampire
vampire
script.
Yeah.
I don't know
Weirdest
why
set to
somebody
grade.
would get that graded, but if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, we've got it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. We'll have to throw up a picture of it. It's pretty unique. Actually, I think it's our only graded set that we have right now. It's pretty
it's only
crazy.
graded
It's the only
set
one
we've
I've
ever
seen
had.
in the whole time that I've worked here. Yeah. The whole
ever.
time you've
Yeah.
worked here? Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Unusual choice. You'd think you'd see a graded Cloud City Boba Fett or something.
Yeah.
but-
So, Joe, do you agree? Do you think that's also
I
underrated?
do, because most people you ask in the LEGO community are going to be like, oh, I didn't know that existed. You show them a set, they're going to be like, oh, I don't remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would agree with that. How about you?
I said I did. Yeah.
Oh, I
I
missed it.
think
We're gonna try to agree.
As adult fans, it's like as you're becoming more of a fan of Lego, you're like constantly discovering new things that you didn't know
That's
existed.
very true.
And the more you get into it like us, that really doesn't happen as often.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see things anymore that you haven't heard of at all. And I feel like a lot of these ones we're talking about today that are underrated are kind of some of those last bastions of hope, if you will, for the least likely things that you would have heard of.
The
so
unknown.
Hopefully we'll have some kind of middle of of the iceberg stuff.
There's some
bottom
stuff
of the
you might
iceberg
know.
stuff is like unreleased content.
What's
Homemaker.
Like,
Yeah.
Citron. Oh wait, that's not a.
Yeah,
that doesn't
Citron.
count. That's not a real theme.
No,
Temple
I
of
would
Doom
have.
said-
I would have done that if that counted. but
Yeah, unfortunately.
you're gonna cover one similar.
Alrighty,
That's
Joe.
fair.
What's your first theme you want to bring up?
Cars.
Cars, as in
Because
the movie
it's
Cars?
The movie Cars.
Oh.
Yeah. I picked this one because.
You meant Speed Champions, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like, you know.
Or
Lightning
racers?
McQueen.
Did you mean
I got
racers?
that one.
Oh,
Later.
he stole that one for me.
Did you
from
mean
me.
what were the little ones where you slammed down and they crashed into each other?
There's Pull Back and Go. There's
Yeah,
Super
those-
Slammers.
those
Those are good. Yeah, those are good.
No?
Yeah.
No,
No,
none of
not
those
that.
ones?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
Can you name
Which ones?
Can you name 2 car sets?
Yeah. There was the Big Lightning McQueen and the Big Mater.
Is there
Wow.
a
There
big
was
Vader?
also
There is.
there was
See?
there was the Flo's Cafe also, and there was
Yeah.
the Red, the fire truck.
Daniel,
don't
I didn't
think
know
those
there
were
was a
that
Big
under-
Mater.
See?
Now I'm
There's a
excited.
big, he's a lot
Believe it.
he's a lot more rare.
Okay.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one built.
He did
couple
what?
years
His
ago.
cup.
Love that movie. I think those are very lost on a lot of people because
Mhm.
you know they came out for the movie and they're really well done. Like you have
Yeah.
the individual car characters, some good sets like Flo's
I
Cafe.
do know the Flo's Cafe is a pretty expensive.
It's so hard to find. You
Yeah.
rarely see that. And I remember one of my siblings used to have that, so I played with it when I was younger. So for me, I was used to it.
Yeah, a
But
little
like,
nostalgia. Yeah.
we rarely see those in here. We'll see the cars every now and again. Sets, rarely see those.
Yeah.
You know, the Big Lightning, Big Mater, a lot of people don't realize those exist. They
Mhm.
were just like a UCS that just kind of was out there.
Yep.
So
well,
I think
Cars was not like a one-off movie either.
Exactly,
It was
they did
it was
3.
a series.
So
a lot of the
people might-
one-off movies are the ones that end up being really
Obscure.
underrated because nobody cares about the movie
Yeah.
when it comes out.
I bet people have seen like the Cars 3 stuff because that they made a few more recently, and we probably have a couple on the shelf like the Cruise set that we had several of, but the original ones, and they made some for the second movie as well.
Mhm.
Like, there's one that Mater has his little parachute
Yep.
coming out the back with his Tommy
I see
gun.
that one all the time.
It's
I
so
see
great.
that all the
It's
time.
so cool. So
Yeah,
I
but
think
I can't stand those movies.
I get out.
2 and 3, not the first one. I like the
No,
first.
they're
one.
all great.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
I lean more toward Daniel on this movie.
No!
no.
You want to take it outside?
I agree that
Yes.
I agree that the sets, at least the first and second movie related sets, are pretty underrated.
Yeah.
The third movie did get a lot more coverage, and those
Yeah.
sets were on sale, and that we've seen a lot of them. But
Yeah.
And
as well,
I agree with
clearance
that.
stuff.
So I'd say the first one especially, but the second one as well.
you ask a new Lego fan, did you know they made Lego sets for the movie Cars?
One
They might be
and
confused. They'd be like, "What?" So you could surprise some
Yeah.
people with that little
Yeah.
Easter egg of knowledge.
So
there.
I think
It has
overall
not been
it is
a
underrated.
timeless classic, I guess you could say.
That counts. I mean, it doesn't have to be
That's
the
fair.
best sets ever. This is the most underrated
Yeah.
sets ever. So never heard of, unusual.
Yeah. So
I think-
that's my opinion.
What do you think, Daniel? Is that a agreed or not?
I guess. I think there are ones that made my honorable mentions list that I would have chosen over that. Like I was
Yeah.
talking about one-off movies. One of my honorable mentions is Prince of Persia.
Mm-hmm.
I
think
I
those
thought
were-
of that one, but
That's
But
also
we
pretty
won't
good.
we won't
yeah.
get into that way
All
too
right.
much.
So I'm going to start with my first theme, and this is like
yeah.
in the forefront of my mind right now because I recently acquired some of these off of Bricklink.
Yeah, weirdest
So
addictions.
Lego Belleville came out in just another 90s property, and it actually, I think it ended up lasting all the way into the 2005, maybe 2006 there. I have to double check on Bricklink, but it had these very unusual large-scale posable action figures that connect pretty well with Lego. Had a bunch of raised base plates. Some of the most unusual and creative and bizarre pieces you'll ever find. If we find a weird piece, it's usually Belleville or sometimes Scala, but
Yeah.
Belleville is crazy. And I didn't realize how cool it was until I acquired some sets. I love them. They're awesome. But here's the thing. You ask someone now who just got in because of Star Wars or Marvel, they don't know what the heck Belleville is. They might think that's a Barbie toy. You know, they
Yeah.
have no idea. You show a Belleville figure to somebody, they're going to think it's Polly Pocket.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Yeah.
It's more along those lines and targeted at that audience from that era. So before Friends, Belleville ruled the feminine department. However, it didn't do well. None of the themes besides Bionicle did well back then.
That's fair.
But so yeah, I think that it's very underrated, very underappreciated, and some of the sets I got 2 sealed sets on Bricklink for like $40.
Wow.
And it's
I
like-
thought you had more in it than that.
No,
Yeah, that's
no,
I might have
and
to
so
go check that out.
for that price, the cool pieces are worth it alone.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
lots
it's
of
like
chrome and transparent.
and so underrated, and still some of them are obviously
weird
expensive.
oranges and greens and
Some of them
pinks.
are expensive, but some of them you can still find online for pretty affordable, and they're getting rare. There's like 4 for sale in the world, but they're like cheap, so
Yeah.
it's
You
unusual.
gotta go get those.
I think Belleville in a way suffered a little bit from Jackstone-itis.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
In that they were, even the parts that were in system were like huge and chunky, and sometimes they had those pins coming up out of them
Yep.
that make them kind of useless in certain scenarios. So.
They're not great for incorporating into regular system mocks as
Yeah.
much as like a very singular NPU
right.
particular stuff.
Like there
so.
were some
Yeah.
buckets and
They're
pots
too
and-
unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cloth pieces and things. That kind of stuff that you're into. But yeah, the regular bricks and in-system pieces were not as practical.
Yeah. They didn't do well at the time. I mean, they had a number of years of doing it, but it's like they didn't do well enough to last, and they
Yeah.
replaced them with Friends a decade later. So.
Something interesting, I actually learned this in Denmark the first time that I went at the Lego house. The whole fairy tale line of Belleville sets was all based on Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales because he's from
Oh,
Denmark.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So just a fun little tidbit.
I
for
didn't
you.
know that.
So,
So
you
yeah,
appreciate Belleville even more.
I have one of the fairy sets, so I'm really happy about it. That's cool. All
All
right.
the fairy tale ones.
All right, so that was my
right.
first underrated theme. We crossed that out, and so far, I think. Do you guys agree Belleville's pretty underrated?
I mean, I agree that it is not known.
Yeah, there you go.
They're all in
I'm trying to
underrated
decide
in
if
different
it's underrated.
aspects.
Yeah.
Underrated also suggests that it's good. So we have to.
I know,
you
that's why I
That's
didn't
true.
agree
Let's
with it.
okay, hang on. Let's backtrack a little bit and say let's give a qualifier for how they're underrated. So Belleville is underrated for parts, would you say?
Parts
Chiefly.
and uniquely, nobody knows about it, and I would say some of the parts are really cool. Like there's a larger disc that's a mushroom.
Yeah.
And it's really, like, if that was around nowadays, people would be very excited, but nobody knows
yeah.
it exists.
Yeah.
Underrated.
That's fair.
So,
the parts are underrated.
And what qualifier would you give to how Cars is underrated?
I think it's underrated because people don't know about them.
Okay.
They would buy them
Just
if they knew
awareness,
about them.
general
I just think
awareness.
it's just the awareness of
I think a
people.
giant Mater build would be cool.
Like
so I
people
think
right
that's,
now, if that
I vote
came out,
underrated.
I think people would buy it.
Studios, I would say, was underrated in original sales, probably, and that's why we don't see them as often.
Yeah.
It's rare
nowadays.
and
Yeah.
unknown.
But they are very cool sets.
All right, I'm going to follow up Belleville with another girls' theme, the one that I would say is one of the best girls' themes and the only ones that I collect, and that is Paradisa.
Yeah.
This was, I
Those are
think,
actually
the
cool.
first
Yes.
of all the attempts at marketing Lego towards girls specifically.
Because that would have been
'Cause
like
I believe
late
it
80s.
predated even the
Yeah.
earliest. Even the earliest of Belleville. I think it was 90s still. I think
You
it was
think?
early
Okay.
early 90s, but oh man. Okay, so this was all in system.
Mhm.
I mean, they had raised base plates and things,
Which
but
is
you didn't have
minifigures.
you didn't have big dolls. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
minifigures. Oh man, the minifigures are great too. You've got these sweet looking guys with the sunglasses and sleeveless shirts.
love those guys.
You got the babes relaxing by the pool. He's
You got
got
the
his,
waiter.
He's got his convertible. Yeah, the waiter
Yeah.
in the tuxedo bringing them drinks.
Love that set.
I mean, that's the best. set from
Opulence.
them. That's the Poolside Paradise is the one we're talking
I know
about.
exactly. Yeah.
There was also there was a lighthouse set. There were lots
Classic.
of things with dolphins and beachside cafes and
Horse
resorts
riding.
and things.
It's just so cool.
The horse riding sets was like a whole separate sub theme. I really am not a big fan of those ones, but all the like beach ones were fantastic.
Amazing.
The horse riding ones were kind of I don't know. I
Offshoot.
mean, they were marketed for horse girls, so
Yeah.
whatever you want to read into that.
Yeah. You're not a horse girl.
This
That's what I
is
read
this
into.
is underrated, I would say, in terms of not collectability, but
They're getting up there a little bit.
desire to collect from adults. I think more people should be collecting Paradisa now, whereas people kind of brush it off as being one of those girls' themes and not
Yeah,
something
it's
that
actually
they're
pretty
interested
good.
in.
Yeah.
But I think it's the most like approachable, I would say,
Oh, yeah.
girls' theme to collect if you're into the vintage stuff, as
Yeah.
opposed to getting into
Friends.
Belleville or Scala, which
Yeah,
is
or
harder,
Friends, yeah.
harder to find and not as cool to display as the original set,
Yeah.
as opposed to being good for parts or something like Belleville.
A lot more regular bricks, especially in that old original pink color.
The original
It's
pink,
super cool.
yeah,
Another
a lot of
underrated
plates.
color.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There you go. I agree. Underrated. What do you think?
I
Jeff?
know, I agree too. I
Yeah.
love that poolside set. I think we might actually have one out there, and I've seen it and thought about getting it.
No,
a
I
few
think
times.
it's the lighthouse
Is
one.
it?
The lighthouse is
Yeah.
iconic.
That's
But
another. I still need to
do
get
love
that
that one. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna follow it up with an underwater theme / another water theme.
Yeah.
That was a loose transition.
I know it was. I was.
Hey, beaches.
I
You're
was-
going under the water.
So
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
go off the beach and into the water.
3 out of 10 transition.
Yeah, actually, I think it was lower than that, but I appreciate that. This is like the one I'm the least excited to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because I don't know. I'm not a collector of this theme at all. But I definitely think it's
And it's a big
underrated. It's a huge one. Atlantis and Aqua Raiders. Now they're not quite similar, but they're both underwater themes, so I lumped them together.
Within a few years of each other too. So.
Yeah, I think Aqua Raiders was
Aqua Raiders
2007.
2, technically, for you theme name sticklers.
Yeah, yeah, you know how they
Newer
are.
Aqua Raiders, yeah.
So I've actually become to appreciate Aqua Raiders a lot more since we started doing the Joy Building, because we've done several of the sets, and I didn't really pay attention to them at all.
Yeah.
Underrated.
It is
And
one I
then like
forget
it's
about a
pretty
lot.
cool. We have that huge set
That's
out
what,
there.
2004?
I think it's 7.
7?
I could be wrong.
I think it's 2006 or 7.
Is it?
I'm-
Okay,
We'll,
alright.
we'll double check everything.
Yeah.
We didn't write any notes on this stuff,
We're
guys.
just going, we're just going off of it.
Yeah.
But it's actually
off the dome.
It's pretty cool. And the more Steven's built a few, and I see them, I pay attention to them more. I'm like, these are good sets. And like that set is one of the bigger sets. It's this base with a creature, and it's
Huge
$150.
squid. Yeah. Glow in the dark pieces.
Yeah, and it's only 150 because no one is. There's no desire for it in the market.
No
so
one knows
it's
about
not
it.
going up. So
Yeah.
it's like that's really cool. So I think those are great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is Atlantis, which my brother had a couple of those when we were younger, including the base that like could close and then open like this.
Yeah.
And we thought those were super great as kids, and they were
Great
super
play
fun.
features, yeah.
We always wanted the other ones because they were so cool. Like the Gate of Atlantis, that set
Yeah.
is phenomenal,
Yeah,
and no
that's
one
one I
knows it
regret missing out
exists.
on.
Yeah.
That's underrated.
It's like
Yeah.
that is one of the coolest sets they've ever designed.
Well, was that,
and all
was
those
that
unique-
part of the weird second wave of
Well, that's what I was
Atlantis
going to get
that
into.
didn't sell
A
very
lot of
well?
people don't even realize there was a second wave of
Well,
Atlantis.
actually, no, I think technically
Even the
it was the
people who
third.
knew.
They did 2 waves where they had the green visors, and then
There
it was
was
one where
3?
they had the yellow.
I think the yellow one
the
was
yellow visor.
I thought
first.
that, no, the yellow was definitely not first.
Okay.
The yellow was the last one.
because that
they
was
did.
the one that had the temple with the full like golden guard guy.
Yeah.
minifigure,
Yeah.
the white
Greek-looking
temple.
guy,
That
yeah,
was a cool
with the
set
columns,
as
the
well.
fluted
Yeah,
columns.
so they had some really killer sets, and it just kind of no one went for it. And then that second wave, people don't really, you see it, and you're like, oh, what is
It
this?
wasn't
looks
through
like
lack of marketing.
No.
I remembered the TV commercials. I remember all of the. I think it was Brickmaster
Yeah.
magazine at the time.
Exactly.
Or Lego Club magazine.
I'm just surprised it's not as.
I remember
big
the
of a
3D.
thing.
I found those 3D glasses recently. I need to
Nice.
wear those to a convention or something.
Yeah.
Get all the swag.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah.
think it's underrated because there's not a lot of people who go, oh my gosh, Atlantis. Now I have had a couple people come to the store and be like, I'm a huge Atlantis fan.
Yeah.
It's because they grew up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of collectors don't go, yeah, this is a good theme I missed out on. They're just like, yeah.
Other
But it's
themes,
got great stuff.
Yeah. Other themes from that time period have more notoriety and
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Because that was like early.
Yeah.
People slept on
2010.
Atlantis. So.
Well, Star Wars was really kicking it into
Yeah,
gear
that's
around
true.
that
That
time,
was-
and I
that
think
was a bad
that's
time.
what I think that's what people were mostly focused on.
Yeah.
So now, if you look back at it, those are great sets. Phenomenal parts.
Figures.
The figures are killer. I mean, some of those creature figures are very cool. The translucent shark head, it's red with a creepy mouth. I mean, that's
Yep.
just
Exactly.
it's pretty cool. What can I
The,
say?
the Kraken-looking guy is just an absolutely killer. figure,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. he's
And
the
the
best.
I mean the built animals too with the stickers and
true.
patterns on
Those
them.
were
They had
really
these kind of
lobsters.
like crazy like runic symbols, like they were
Yeah.
these
Guardians.
somehow
and
summoned
then
from the abyss or something.
They kind of used the thing from I don't know. Did Monster Fighters come before or after that? I don't remember. But they also
Monster
just
Fighters
like
should have been
Monster
after.
Fighters
A little bit after.
had the
Yes.
those stone discs.
Collectible.
They had those little round Atlantis treasure discs.
Infinity Stones.
Yeah. Yes.
Basically, it
But
made
what
you
I-
want to get them and put them all together on that last one to open the portal of Atlantis.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Was I think there are countless themes that have had chase items,
Yeah.
but I think Monster Fighters and Atlantis have been the only 2 themes that have ever actually put them to some use.
Yes.
There was some build where you incorporated those
There's
chase
the big
items
set,
into it,
yeah.
and it had a function or a reason
Yeah.
for being a chase item, as opposed to just, oh, here's something shiny and gold.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
collect them all.
Yeah. Like, that's cool. Like, we get it. We like it. But, like, when you put all those in and then you can do this little portal function, it's like, oh, this is so cool. This
Oh
is so
yeah, it's
worth
like
it.
something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
great.
And they look great, too. Those are
Yeah.
cool pieces, with the different animals on them, different colors. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I definitely agree.
I didn't realize I felt that way about all that. That
Hey,
came poured out.
That was like...
I'm going to go collect Atlantis box.
hearing that, I would think you were like a big Atlantis fan, but no, that's great.
It was.
All right, Mark, if you mess up this transition, I'm going to let you have it.
Well, you got to rate my thing.
I led you into it.
Agreed, Daniel? You think that's good?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to do a counter up
yeah,
here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I grew up being a Lego fan at the time these were coming out, so I was buying them, so it's hard for me to judge whether they were underrated.
Steven had a
I
few.
also don't have... I have surprisingly little nostalgia for a lot of the themes that I grew up with, so I think it's because I had them they don't feel as special to
That's
me.
fair.
Yeah.
Because I parted them out and there's a few things that I regret parting out into my collection.
Yeah.
But Atlantis I don't think is really one of them.
You're not
So
worried
I
about
have
it.
a little bit of a soft spot for it, but in terms of nostalgia, I'd give it a mid kind of range
Yeah.
in terms of being underrated.
But with Atlantis / Aqua Raiders. I mean,
Aqua Raiders I would agree with more than Atlantis.
Okay.
So that's an agree.
So
I know.
it's a barely agree. Daniel's just barely
Yeah.
agreeing on a couple
Yeah.
of these.
Yeah.
It'll be like half.
He's the stickler.
Alrighty. So we talked about these treasure tokens, these
Yeah.
things you gotta capture and find.
I know. I was like, come on, man. It's right there.
It was nice and
Silver
obvious.
flag.
So the next theme is actually not too long after Atlantis, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
very-
But
very
Monster
quickly.
Fighters
It was
is
2014.
super underrated theme. This was based off of those classic movie horror genres. You had werewolves, you had Swamp Thing, you had the vampire, you had all these
Frankenstein.
flying bat guy. I mean, yeah.
Hey, and I'm
Frankenstein.
glad we got that Swamp Thing. That's
Yeah.
how you just-
Yeah.
Sorry, I won't
Yes,
hijack
exactly.
the
We had
conversation.
Citron figures in the Monster Fighters theme. It was pretty cool. No, so these were actually really well designed sets, great characters, and it's rare to see these kind of horror haunted genres. So in like the haunted house, iconic set. Some of these are actually somewhat collectible, expensive. They have gotten a little bit of attention. However, I think they're still underrated because they haven't done anything like this since. At all. Maybe a polybag,
Yeah.
maybe a CMF, a zombie CMF here and there.
They
But
did the haunted house.
they've
but,
been
like,
needing Monster Fighters since when did they come out? Like I'm thinking
I
like
think it's
2008,
2014.
2014.
I'm pretty sure
That
I'm
late?
right.
I'm thinking
Can you
it's
look that up?
earlier.
I'm
but
still
yeah.
working on this other one. So it looks like Atlantis was like 9, 10, 11.
I was
Okay.
right.
And
about
Monster
10.
Fighters was 2012. So it was
Okay.
just after
Okay.
the end of
2012.
A little earlier.
I see. So Monster Fighters came out in 2012. I think we're a decade behind on Monster Fighters-esque sets. I
Yeah.
mean, Hidden Side was vaguely similar, but not enough.
But yeah, no, I would not count that. That was too far off the end.
So I think they're underrated because some people don't know about them, but everybody wants these. There's a need for Monster Fighters, and therefore it's underrated, and it should be appreciated more. They should make more Monster Fighters, therefore it's underrated. So.
So originally underrated, but now highly sought after and
Yeah.
greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that's my opinion. So.
and because people are going after it, Lego's underrating it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So the Lego group is kind of sleeping on this one because it's
Yeah.
like they're underrating the desire and need for it. We see it here.
I
don't think so?
disagree with that sentiment because they did a really poor job at trying to rehash it in the form of Hidden Side.
Well, yeah, but that's like going for like Stranger Things versus going for classic Frankenstein.
Yeah, but I think they saw that desire for it and they said, "Oh, let's do something else like that," but then just botched it.
See, that's just Lego botching it, not doing
Right.
the right thing, though.
Right. They didn't do the right thing, but I'm saying they recognized the desire for a
Ghosts,
monster-related,
yeah, okay.
supernatural.
I can see that
themed.
argument. I still think that Monster Fighters is
Thing.
underrated. Anyway,
Fair
so
enough.
I agree with
We'll
that.
see what Dreams turns out to be. I'm still excited.
it
for
could
that.
be
I'm
like
surprised
something
we
like
haven't
it.
heard more
That's
about that
true.
since
Yeah,
then.
I forgot about that.
That's coming out someday.
It sounds very kind of fantastical.
I
in
hope
that
it's
sense.
not just a weird cloud.
As long as there's not a phone app.
I know. If they do that again, I'm gonna.
No,
be
it's
so
gonna
done with
anything
it.
you
but a
have,
phone
you
app.
have to buy a
Oh, a VR
yeah,
headset.
VR
Oh,
headset
man.
for Dreams. Yeah, no.
Oh, dude.
So Monster Fighters underrated, or do you guys agree?
I agree with exactly what you said. That people do appreciate it now, but when it came out,
To a
they
certain
didn't as
extent,
much,
yeah.
and there's a lot that they could redo and reuse. And
I think if they came out with a Monster Fighters very similar to that, maybe a little bit updated in some of the set
Sell
designs,
out.
it would sell really
Easily.
well. Like people
Easily.
are excited about this stuff. Halloween time, boom, sold. So
I think I'm going to disagree with you on
oh,
this one, Mark.
disagree. All right.
I think that now there is a very vocal population of people who regrets not buying it.
That's true. So maybe it's
is,
appreciated.
As
now.
is the case with a lot of other themes. People always regret what they didn't buy. I think that people who wanted to buy it back then bought it, and obviously now a lot of people regret not buying it. But I think it's not to a degree that I wouldn't consider standard for most any other Lego theme.
Okay, well,
I think
it's fine.
I think that sums it up.
Okay, we'll knock one off of that one. But okay, moving
seems
on.
Fair. I get that.
What's your next theme here?
Gosh,
Daniel?
let's see. I didn't pick one out, so I'm gonna.
It's all good.
After hassling you all for your transitions, I'm probably
It's
about
all
to. Weak. All right, no, I can do this. All right, I'm gonna go for an older theme, but one that had some different monsters and things in it. I'm gonna do adventures.
Okay.
But excluding the desert theme.
Yes.
I think when people think adventures, their mind immediately goes to the desert theme.
Egypt.
That's what we get in the store the most.
That's very true.
We see it all the time. It's what people are always after.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't hardly ever see or hear people talking about, jungle with Achu, the guy with the big headdress.
We love
and,
Achu.
Huh?
We love Achu.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bless you. Missed opportunity.
Dang it!
Next time.
Because you're tiny.
You rarely ever see a lot of these sets,
That's
right?
true.
I mean, there was the plane, the island hopper. No,
Mhm.
that's the Dino Island one.
It's Dino Island. But yeah.
What's the
There's
what's the
a
jungle
plane
one?
in Jungle too. It's a little
it's
brown
like a seaplane. Yeah. You rarely ever see that one. I've never seen the biggest set from that wave.
Mhm.
The big
Jungle Temple. Yeah.
Jungle Temple.
It's
Yep.
awesome.
Dino Island. Rarely ever see the Dino Island sets. We talked all about this in the adventures between the studs that we did, but I really don't ever see these sets in.
Isn't there Orient?
Oh, and Orient Expedition is the last one.
And also rare.
A lot of fantastic pieces
Yeah.
in Orient Expedition. Orient Expedition was also divided into like 3 sub-themes because there was like the India stuff with the Scorpion Palace. There was the kind of Tibet and Nepal area with the Everest Temple.
Mhm.
And then there was the kind of Chinese thing with the Dragon Temple, which is fantastic. There's great pieces in all of these sets.
I mean, I don't even know all the sets you're saying.
The figs are pretty they're twists on old versions of the same characters, but a lot of the animals, the molds, the prints and things in these sets are really fantastic, but you just don't see a lot of people collecting them, and you don't see a lot of people trading them in. So if there are people
That's
out
fair.
there who have them, they're sitting tight on them.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they just weren't saved after the first desert line. I don't think people were like hanging on to them, keeping them as kids. They were kind of just spreading them out. They weren't
and
preserving them.
Maybe it's one of those kind of things where at the time people were seeing it as inferior sequels to the original.
Yeah.
But I think now people have an appreciation for all of them. There's just not as much of it changing hands out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's underrated
Unknown.
in terms of poor circulation.
Yeah.
Currently, the market is not very stimulated right now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. And so, would you agree with that, Joe?
I guess I would agree.
Yes. Okay.
Well, because like when we got those,
This is
We
is
got-
Adventurers asterisk minus
because he
desert.
said that, I agree. If he
Yeah.
had just said Adventures as a whole, I would not have agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we got those Orient Expedition sets in sealed, remember that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was cool.
was the
I
first
think
time I'd
that's-
ever seen those sets.
Yeah.
At all.
So
Like
underrated.
I knew Adventures had other things. I just had never
So
seen
also
them.
underrated in terms of
So,
awareness.
yeah,
just
I mean,
general
you
awareness.
don't. Not everyone realizes. Oh, they had more than just the desert.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I would agree. I would.
Yeah, I think there is an argument to be made that Adventures has a bigger following more recently, like within the last few years, honestly. Because it's like there's a hashtag on Instagram, Johnny Thunder Thursday.
Oh yeah.
So it's
yeah.
like, so there's fans, and therefore it's appreciated. Maybe not. I think it's still kind of underrated for what it is, though.
Yeah.
Especially
you
the
almost
later
always
waves.
see desert related mocks
Yeah.
and occasionally a jungle one, but
Mhm.
but rarely ever the other two.
There you go.
Yeah,
All right.
that's fair. No,
So both we fully underrated. So
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Well, you talked about Dino Island being underrated. That's not the only underrated
Nice.
Dino thing.
Nice.
Yeah, I got the transition on
There you
that
go.
one.
Nice.
So Dino Attack / Dino or Dino 2010.
If you're in
Dino.
Europe.
If you're in Europe, where they just cage the animals, they don't shoot the animals.
Cage the Animals. I love that band.
So yeah, the Dino Attack line was super cool. Like seeing them now, they're awesome.
Yeah. Well,
But
they're controversial, but amazing.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting theme because in Europe it was 2010. Dino 2010 was just the name of the theme, and in U.S. it was Dino Attack because there was guns.
They were battling.
They were shooting. They were fighting against these dinos.
The mutant dinos.
But
It's okay to shoot them because they're mutants.
They're mutants.
Yeah.
They're horrifying. If you've seen those dinos, I mean, they're bigger than all the other dinos.
Crimes against humanity.
And they just want to eat you.
Yeah.
But the Europeans don't want to shoot them. They just want to capture them.
Yeah, and
So-
release them in the jungle or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. So-
they have modified. So there's this big helicopter with this big old gun, which is
Enormous
super cool.
helicopter.
Just, like
If you've
literally
ever-
like this
you
big.
have- it's one of those sets you have to see in person.
It is insane.
to understand how large it is.
That's the set that makes me appreciate this theme. It's like
Yeah.
doing that, and then Steven has built one of the tanks.
Mhm.
So
I bet it's the biggest
have
helicopter they've
both
ever
those
made.
sets.
Yeah, I bet it's bigger than even most of the like Technic helicopters.
I
It's
would
the biggest
probably
system
agree.
by far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Getting close to techniques.
But anyway, a big old gun, on the box, just aiming right at this big old T-Rex, and this guy's swinging out, and the Velociraptor's trying to eat him, or pterodactyl, whatever it was.
Pterodactyl,
Pterodactyl.
yeah.
Pterodactyl. Anyway,
I'll edit it out. It's good.
yeah. And then in the European version, it's just a cage on the bottom holding the T-Rex. And
Yeah.
there's no big gun. It's like, all right, listen, we're kids here.
Very
We
interesting.
want to play and make these fight. We don't want to make them swoop in and pick it up and go release it back into the wild.
When I was playing with a T-Rex, it wasn't just walking around the jungle not eating anything. It
Yeah.
was going after something.
That's what you're supposed to do with it. But anyway, besides the point, you might not have known either of those existed until I just told you.
Realistically. Yeah.
So I think it's a very underrated theme. You just don't see it very often. Like
That's
we
true.
rarely get them in. Some of them, like the big helicopter, you get it brand new. It could be very expensive, but you just don't see it very often. A lot of people really just don't know it exists.
Yeah, underrated.
And then that's a slash on Dino, which was a couple years later, I think in 2012.
Yes, yeah.
And that was a whole nother line which got us the molds we have now for like the T-Rex, the raptors, the pterodactyls. Those molds are still in circulation as Jurassic World.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize, like, they'll find a dino and it's like, oh, I don't remember this from the set. It's like, that's because it's from Dino, not Jurassic World.
And it's usually a little bit more, like, sometimes more expensive or even
Yeah.
cheaper than the newer ones.
Yeah, there's one we have right over there, and it's got a whole olive green
Mhm.
body, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna grab the mutant.
Let's grab
both of those. Yeah.
can see
And the
the
size
size-
comparison,
size
yeah.
difference,
This is why you stay away from this mutant.
Yeah, and there you see.
Yeah,
it's
like that-
enormous.
And then what was really cool about these is it doesn't work on this one, but there was a button on the top, and if you pressed it, he's just going to do a little squat. The tongue and the eyes would light up red.
Yeah.
Glowing red, yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
capture that one. It's fine. And yeah, look at that's crazy when you put them beside each other. This thing would
it's ridiculous.
swallow that thing.
It looks it. This could very easily be in the commonly thrown away
yeah,
Yes.
that's
Lego
true.
video.
It doesn't look super
because
Lego.
I'm not even sure this. I'm not sure if this brick is attached to him or if that's pressed in there. But this looks like what's
More
the
like
one I'm
Mega
thinking
Bloks.
of? Not Creo or Mega Block. It reminds me of I think it was Imaginext. Do you guys remember those things? This looks like one of those crazy giant toys.
Barely integrates with the other system pieces from his line. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So people won't
just
recognize it immediately as Lego. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's wedged in there too. So it just is crazy how crazy this was before any of the other dinos we got. But as I was saying, Dino 2012, I guess, is what we can call it.
Still underrated.
It's underrated because it introduced all these molds and stuff, and people don't really know it's around. They fixed their problem with the whole guns and capturing. They had guns, but they were trank guns. So
Yeah.
they tranquilized them,
Yeah.
then put them in cages to transport them wherever they wanted. Back to the jungle, I guess.
To the zoo, yeah, no?
yeah, to the
Yeah.
zoo.
They're so sleepy.
But the minifigures are super underrated, in my opinion, because they have these really cool guys who got these, like crazy adventure faces. These, they've got the bullet strung across
Yeah.
their chest.
The Dino Attack guys
No
look like
sleeves.
special
Oh
forces.
yeah, they look
Yeah.
like Rambo.
They're-
They've got headbands.
they're
They've got
awesome.
like camo paint streaked across their face. They've got
they're amazing.
utility pouches to the nines. I mean,
Binoculars.
Yeah. Oh man,
Grenades.
They're
Yeah.
going
they
all
are
out,
decked
man.
out. It looked like SEAL Team 6 or
So
something.
I think both these themes are underrated completely. Like people just don't know about them. They're amazing. The figures are super underrated because like even if you've like, oh yeah, I know that's a cool dino. It's like, well, what about the rest of
Yeah.
the sets? The sets too, like that helicopter.
They're awesome, yeah. Definitely agree. Underrated in my opinion, especially Dino Attack. So
yeah, I'll agree with you.
Okay,
on this one.
solid
I'll give
agreement
You, I'll
from
give you
Daniel.
a clean
There you
cut
go.
agree on this one.
Here, put these
I
guys
like
back
it.
before you eat some.
I don't care for the dinosaurs themselves very much. But,
That's fair.
I'll give it an underrated for
Yeah.
the figs and the builds, but
Yeah.
not the dinosaurs so
and
much.
they are unknown, really. I would say
Yeah.
both of those are pretty unknown nowadays compared to like
And
Jurassic World or anything
circulation
else.
isn't
Yeah,
very high.
yeah,
You don't
very
see them very
unknown.
often.
And also a lot of it, I think, is related to the confusion in the names and the years, because I still even struggle with this. The Dino 2010, the Dino Attack, the European versus the American stuff. Then there's regular Dino. They couldn't have named it Dino something else.
They just said
It
Dino.
was just Dino.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
It's,
Thank
it, all,
you.
it all adds to the confusion of it, and that kind of drives people away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they're making the Jurassic Park sets to straighten everything out. These
Oh,
are the
yeah.
what everyone wanted in the first place, and
Yeah.
they'll make them. It's good. So
Well, I'll add another thing to think about kind of for the whole course of this video, which is something that contributes to the longevity of a product and the desire for it on the aftermarket is what investors were getting. And Lego investing was not as big back then.
Yeah.
But you got to think about what else was available at the time. If you're walking into a Lego store in 2010 or earlier with Lego investing in mind, you're not
No.
picking this off the shelf. You're just
Star
not.
Wars. You're going to the
You're
latest
getting Star
UCS
Wars,
one. Yeah.
You're getting Harry Potter. Those are just some of the only early licensed themes, but you might get some other Lego IP stuff. But you're not picking this.
You're not
up.
picking
No.
There's
the
no
play
way.
toy dinosaurs.
Yeah. This looks like something you'd get at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like that.
The dollar
Yeah.
store, exactly. Not quite, but yeah, anyway, almost there. Alrighty, so I have no segue at all, so I'm just gonna go.
Segway. What'd you say about a Segway?
I know the guy who invented the Segway.
Oh, there you go.
What do you do
Did
on
they
a-
have tires on Segways? Because the
Yeah,
what I'm
they
about
did
to
have
talk
tires
about
on
has
Segways.
my theme that I want to talk about is racers.
Oh,
And they had-
wow,
They
okay.
drive on a Segway.
This
They
is-
do Segway races.
Yeah.
This is why
Yeah.
Lego can talk about them having the most tire production of any company. It's because of
That's true.
themes
true.
like racers.
This is true.
So Racers came out, I think it would have started in the very late 90s or early 2000s, and it ran for, I'm guessing, around 8 to 10 years. And for a while, Racers was both system and Technic, so it gets kind of confusing because you had Technic stuff as well. You're like falling asleep as I'm talking.
I'm just yawning because I'm jet lagged.
Okay, that's good.
I'm
Yeah,
paying
that's
That's
attention.
good. That's good. Anyway, so I think Racers is underrated because there were themes like Drome Racers and other like the actual pull back and go, slammers.
I love those.
They had a bunch of great play features.
That's
and
true.
as a kid, I wanted these, but nowadays we have a store full of awesome, rare old stuff. We have a tiny little Racers section.
Yeah.
And nobody has bought any of those Racer sets ever. Like, nobody even
We have
knows.
a whole bunch of sealed ones, I think.
Yeah.
Aren't those ones with like the yellow and
Yeah.
red molded car thing?
Well, not a
Those
whole
are
bunch
all-
of them. We have like a little pocket of them.
Well,
Yeah.
But
10,
they're-
10 or 20,
Yeah.
I think, is a lot of any given sealed
Yeah.
set from that time
But
period.
Racers had literally like thousands of sets.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
it's mind-boggling.
They produced a lot and they sold okay. They weren't like tremendously successful, but they made plenty of them. And so it's like, I think they're totally underrated. If you ask people like, do you like Lego cars? Oh yeah, the Creator 3-in-1s. Or oh yeah, Speed Champions.
Yeah.
They don't know what Racers is. They never
Yeah.
heard of that. So
Yeah.
it just did not. It flew completely under the radar when it wasn't for sale. As soon as it was gone, nobody even knew what Racers was. So
It's something that Lego is always going to have in one form or another.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest things that kids love to play with is cars.
Yeah,
You
that's
come to our
always
store
true.
here, we have a ramp. You go to
Yeah.
Lego House in Denmark, they have ramps because kids love to build a car and send it down the ramp and they race each other and they crash and
Yeah.
they blow up and so kids always want to play and race and smash cars, right? So they've had racers, they've had the pullback stuff. Now we're seeing this interesting trend where Speed Champions is kind of serving on multiple fronts.
Yes.
You can race them and crash them if you want if you're a kid, but also a lot of adults are into them because
Super.
of
Collecting.
the branding, the name cars, the
Yeah.
actual displayability of them,
The
which is
kids-
great.
Kids go for those city
And then
cars.
the Creator 3-in-1s, obviously those are, or the Creator Expert cars
Yeah.
are the much bigger ones. You
Yeah.
wouldn't really be racing those.
Yeah.
I think stunts is probably the closest modern thing
yeah.
That's true.
to
They're
one of
trying to-
those older things like racers because it's the inertia driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are leaning more towards motorcycles, and
Yeah.
Racers is more
Yeah.
truly cars, but at the same
I
time...
think they've
I
done
can see
some
what you're
monster trucks
Yeah,
as well.
but they're going
with
for, like, the
stunts, but
show
not
thing.
as popular.
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had whole video games.
Yeah,
for
that's
Racers.
crazy,
yeah.
man.
So like
Board
it was,
games? There was a Rosart.
Wow, I had
Rosart
no
board
yeah,
idea.
game,
Racers. Yeah. So Racers was
Oh,
a
you'd be
big part
shocked
of my
at some of the
childhood,
Rosart
and
board games.
it was
a Time Cruisers one. sorry, side
That-
tangent.
that-
That's a whole other.
We'll talk about that later.
We should do a board
That's
games
another
episode.
I think we've done a
Or a
Lego
Rosart.
Games one
Very
before,
long
but
time
we
yeah,
can
okay, there you
we
go.
can bring that back. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, Racers I think totally underrated, and just because nobody knows about it, all these sets are actually relatively cheap still, mostly, and I think they're pretty cool, and they had some cool pieces cool designs, but just completely underrated. What do you guys think?
I agree.
There you go.
It's there's not a lot of collectability for it now.
Not really.
So I think it was as rated as it should have been when it came out, right? It served
Kind
its
of
purpose where
basic.
kids were buying it for it to be a kid's toy, right? I think it's underrated now because not a lot of people see the reason to go back and collect what was only ever really seen as a play toy and not a collectible, nostalgic kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of similar to Dino Attack in the way that it's you know, it was there and it was serving a purpose of dinosaurs, but it was for kids a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like super collectible. There was Star Wars and other stuff going on at the time that was more memorable, I guess. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
I agree. I also think, like, what's crazy is that the racers have all those small cars, which are super fun to play with, but they also had several big ones. Like, there was those big Lamborghinis. You know, there was one that was a police, an Italian police Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Then there was one you could color change. These are like the creator expert sets now, and people still don't realize they exist.
Same size,
They
similar
just-
pieces.
They would fit in so well with your collection, but they just ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
I've showed people sometimes they're here. They're like, "Oh yeah, I collect all the cars." I'm like, "Oh, you have those?" I'm like, "Oh no." I'm like,
yeah,
they're just
exactly.
as cool.
Underrated, yes.
Yeah.
So I would have to agree.
There you go.
I'll give you that one. Okay, now I really have no.
You just
segue.
gotta race your
I'm
way.
just gonna.
Race
I'm
Stop
way
just,
with the segue.
I'm just gonna force
You're
my
gonna
way
have to go
right into it.
fast.
I'm gonna talk about what I want to talk about. I'm gonna talk about Classic Ninja.
Yes.
We did.
It's fast
This was
moving.
my second episode of Between the Studs. I
Yes,
think that
very
we did.
early in Daniel's YouTube
Yeah, the
career.
first three Between the Studs episodes that we did were my three favorite themes. I
That's
think.
true.
And
them out
Ninja
there.
is a fantastic one. I will
So cool.
I will die on this hill that more people should be into Classic Ninja
Yep.
because it's so much better than Ninjago. It's all right, go ahead, gasp. Go
Well,
ahead.
I actually don't
Start a
disagree.
riot. It's a
See people
pitchfork.
just liking the video now.
It's a much it's the same as Ninjago. It's ninjas, which is what kids are into, but it's without all of the fantasy elements.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
grounded.
beautiful, more traditional architecture style, which the first waves of Ninjago had.
Yeah.
But they got more and more into the fantasy
Vehicles,
elements.
a lot of
Video
vehicles.
games.
A lot of vehicles, right, as opposed to buildings.
Yeah.
I wish Ninjago did have more
The
buildings.
buildings they've
but
done are great.
in terms of this trend where every season has a different, more and more drastic theme now, right? We started out with traditional, and then it was like snake people, and it's like, okay, all right, snakes kind of fit in with the vibe, but now you look at what we got now. We've got underwater submarines.
You didn't even have
We've
to
got
jump there. You just had to jump to
crystallized
season 3 where they're
people
inside a computer.
inside a computer, exactly.
Video
yeah,
games,
virtual.
yeah.
It was Ready
Yeah.
Player One,
Yeah,
which is
that-
basically that whole series of Ninjago. So what I like about Classic
That I
Ninja
feel.
is the beautiful architecture style, the more traditional characters without all these kind of fantasy elements injected into it. Now, it may not be the most historically accurate thing. I'm not going to
No.
claim that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really great. I, of course, love the classic style of classic figures. I'm a big retro fan. So in the 90s, I think this was a great theme that people slept on then and people are sleeping on now, which
Yeah.
I think is criminal. It's criminally underrated. I'm going to give this one the stamp. Criminally underrated.
Criminally underrated.
Yeah.
Mer, mer.
And I think there's hardly any awareness about it.
Yeah.
This was one of the last things that I would say I found out about in my modern kind of Lego journey in terms of, like I was talking about earlier, discovering sets that you've never seen before. This was probably one of the last ones I discovered, and I instantly fell in love with it, and now it's one of my top 3 favorites.
Yeah.
So I think more people out there should see Ninja, maybe see if you get an interest in it, go out there and collect some, because the sets are just fantastic.
Yeah.
There were, I think there were 2 waves of it, because there was the first one, which was more about the Shogun guy, which you usually see. He had the gold horns and the black and blue costume, and then the second wave was the Emperor, which was the more white and black
The Emperor's stronghold.
minifigure.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic sets.
Agreed. Super underrated. The only argument is that some of them are just a little bit more expensive now, like a sealed one maybe. Not
Yeah,
bad though.
yeah.
So really, I have to agree.
The place I see them pop up the most, oddly enough, is yard sales at conventions. Convention yard sales.
Weird.
I see them at Brick World. I see them at Brick Fair. I don't know why. That's where they just seem to come out of the woodwork. but we rarely ever see them come through the store. We'll get some of the smaller ones.
A little bit, not much.
Yeah.
As often as maybe like Adventurers or
Yeah.
Dino or something like
If
that.
they do, though, I already have all of them, so I won't be scooping them up. So
You're good,
They,
that's good.
They come in the store.
He sounds like me with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that how I
There's
sound?
no danger of me scooping
Oh,
them
it's
all up
alright.
as
I
soon as
already
they,
have that.
as soon as they come in the door. I'm already.
You don't want
already
two
set.
of every set? Yeah, like
No, I don't have any reason for
No,
that.
there's
Don't
no
have any
reason for that.
I even have the little minifigure packs like they did with
Yeah.
Star Wars and Rock Raiders.
I know
so
that was the first ones I did.
I'm good
like
on
that.
I'm good on those.
So agreed.
I
Underrated?
agree, and I remember looking through one of those books when I was younger. You know, and you just see like I don't know if it's minifigures or something. It was just one of those encyclopedia books that we find everywhere. And I saw Ninja, and I was like, "That's not Ninjago." I don't mean, as a kid, I didn't know any better.
I dissed Ninjago fans earlier by saying it's better, but I think Ninjago fans are the ones who need to get more into classic
That's what I was about to
Ninja.
say. As a Ninjago fan, I thought it was really cool that there was old Ninja stuff too, and I do agree that the architecture in those it just looks way cooler.
Well, it's like if you're into Star Wars or Harry Potter and you like the more nostalgic older style with the yellow faces, classic Ninja is that for Ninjago. I mean, you see all the time people, Star Wars fans, like making more classic style sets for modern things.
Yeah,
Like,
I
what if
see that all the
Mandalorian
time.
had come out in the 90s, or there's
Yeah.
a guy
And
Brickstop
it looks
recently
cool.
who's been doing some other ones. That's what classic Ninja is for Ninjago.
No,
Like,
I-
you
I
could totally
don't
do like a
disagree.
classic style Ninjago thing, and it would look like classic Ninja.
That sounds actually pretty awesome. That would be
there
really
you go.
cool.
You should get it.
But-
Get Grant. You and Grant do a collab or
Yeah,
something.
I think the only thing that I've noticed being really people know a lot more about is the Green Ninja. And the reason people know about that Green Ninja is it's the only way they made that piece in that color.
Mm-hmm.
So the original ninjas from Ninjago used that same mold that they used for the classic ninjas, but there was never a green one for Lloyd. They had already switched to the other one.
Yeah.
But then they made a Lloyd that was supposed to be with that hood. So people were like, oh man, I wish they exist. And then they found it and they're like, how does this exist? And then they found Ninja.
Yeah.
So I think that it's very underrated.
And
People
that
just don't
Green
know about
Ninja,
it.
came in one of those minifigure
And now
packs
he's
I was talking
expensive
about.
for that reason.
Like the Star Wars ones, there weren't any exclusive characters in those, so those aren't very valuable. Rock Raiders, the chief obviously
So
is
he's
the most
insane,
expensive
yeah.
one out of any, but that's because Rock Raiders fans are
Crazy.
ravenous.
Not-
but yeah,
not
out of the-
underrated.
Out of the,
No,
Ninja
that's
ones,
not on the list.
Out of the Ninja ones, there were a handful of exclusive ones, and they are all expensive. But yeah, the Green
Green
Ninja
one
is
the one people want.
the one more
Yeah.
sought after.
Mhm.
The red villain guy was in his own pack, so it's not influenced by that demand.
Yeah.
So he's also high in price, but people aren't usually asking about him as
Yeah.
often.
Not insane, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the reasons Lego Ninja is so underrated and so unseen is that if you Google Lego Ninja, you will never find
No.
Lego Ninja. You will find
So many
a bajillion
Ninjagos.
Ninjago
That's why I
results.
always
It's-
call it classic. The name of the theme is Ninja.
Yeah,
but
Lego
you have
Ninja.
to call it classic Ninja, or people won't know what you're
That's
talking
even
about.
how we have it on our website. It's Classic Ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's literally buried under the success of Ninjago,
Yeah.
and we love it. But this is
This
very
is a
underrated.
great
Yeah.
theme to go
Probably
with.
one of the most underrated themes we've talked about. Anyway, what do you got,
That's
Joe?
fair.
What are you following up?
I have a little bit, not quite as old. It's a little bit newer than the Classic Ninja. It's
Okay.
Elves.
Yes.
Slightly newer. I think
Okay,
in
so we all got a
2015.
girls theme in here. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's good.
So
Good coverage.
Elves,
Good coverage.
yeah.
That's good.
Elves was another fantasy one, but they used the mini dolls because Friends was doing well. You know, it
Mhm.
came out, 2010 or 12 for Friends.
Yep.
This is 3 years after that.
And
Friends
that was
is
their
doing
mistake.
well. Friends was doing well, and they were like, oh, well, we can do another one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do something fantasy related where Friends character, Emily Jones, don't know why I know this, gets somehow sucked into another world and ends up at the elf's place.
Mm-hmm.
You're not associating with me anymore?
I'm just
We're
soaking
ignoring
in
that.
the atmosphere.
Okay.
Anyway, so they have this. They had. I don't remember if there was a show or not.
There was,
I think
Netflix
there
show.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was actually a show for it, and then sets based off of the show. I assume.
Yeah, maybe vaguely.
Yeah. And they had so many cool parts. The colors are amazing. I mean,
Parts?
you can use those for so much.
Good parts.
The
Dragons.
dragons, like they had new molds for the heads that are fantastic. The figures were, I mean, cool for mini dolls. I don't love mini dolls, but the figures looked pretty decent. They had some really cool hair, head molds. Not
Accessories.
head molds,
Yeah.
but yeah. And they all had those little 1x1 circles that you could. It was like another chaser thing, but I don't think you did anything with those at the end. Maybe you did.
You had dragon eggs too, and baby dragons that were chasers.
There was a second wave as well, which had these weird little troll dudes that were.
Oh yeah.
Those are weird. I don't like those. But then they also had the baby dragons, which some of those are really hard to find. And it was a super underrated theme when it came out, and no one got it.
Yeah.
And then it retired. A couple years later, people said,
Wait, what?
They said, that exists?
Yeah.
Is that Friends? Wait, that's not Friends.
When was that? 2017, 18? It just shot up.
And then people just started buying it up, and some of those have gotten super expensive. So I definitely say it is appreciated a lot more now, but it was super underrated when it came out.
I think it's slipping back into that range, though.
I agree.
Honestly.
A lot of people. I remember a couple years ago, we had people coming in and buying stuff, and I was pricing these sets. I was like, man, these have gone up. And then a year later, I was pricing the same set, and I'm like, oh, this has gone down a little bit. And,
yeah,
and people aren't buying them as much. So I think it has slipped back into some people not caring as much. Mm-hmm. There's definitely people still out there who really like the theme, but there's a lot more people who should like the theme. Because there's some amazing dragons and parts in those sets. So I think it's super underrated.
And that's what the difference for me was from like Monster Fighters, which we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. They're obviously both highly sought after now, but Monster Fighters I think was appreciated in its time for what it was as a currently available theme, whereas Elves, using the mini dolls,
they
was
just kind of passed
highly
over
slept on. People said, oh, girls theme, mini dolls, whatever. Don't
yeah, exactly what happened.
Now, I will say about this one, while I think it is more underrated in that sense when it came out, I think it was justifiably underrated when it came out because I think the LEGO Group should have taken a stab at doing a girls' theme, not with the mini dolls. I think this should have been a minifigure-based theme.
Yeah.
Ever since Friends came out, we have seen no girl-targeted products, I think, that use minifigures.
Yeah.
Because it's not just Friends and Elves. I mean, we have like the DC superhero
girls
those or whatever.
Too. Yeah.
Those
mini dolls.
They're not underrated. They're just bad.
Those are just straight up bad.
I'm not saying they're underrated at all. I'm just using it as more evidence for that they've used mini dolls for things that people have completely overlooked and glossed over.
Yeah.
Apart from the immediate target demographic at the time, which is younger girls. I think mini dolls are I'll be dramatic here, a poison for current sight for collectability in the future. I think when people see a product on shelves with mini dolls, they say, that's never going to be worth anything.
And I agree.
Elves, I think, was the shining exception that people saw the redeeming qualities after it was gone.
It just took a while to realize that. And I still think people don't realize that. I mean, there's definitely collectors out there, but a lot more people don't know it exists.
Yeah.
Well, I say underrated as well. Totally. So underrated. All right.
Yeah.
Next theme, I think this. So we just talked about a bunch of fantasy animals. This is a little less fantasy, but it's also plenty of animals. In this case, like human animals. So it's like it's a very weird.
Do you know what he's talking about?
Humans are humans, Mark.
So here's the thing. What's the word I'm looking for?
No. He's whatever he said is right.
Bipedal animals. So. In a human form. What's
Keep
the word?
going.
Anyway.
You haven't announced what the theme is.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
I do. I
thought you were talking about the bottom one. Yes. Okay. I thought you were just talking about humans as being animals.
No,
all right, sorry. Got it.
Okay.
My bad.
No. You were reading the wrong thing, Daniel.
Yeah, I was.
No.
So I thought we were on the last one.
You knew what I was talking about.
I was like, what's Daniel worried about?
Okay, so what I'm talking about is the very, very unusual theme of Fabuland. So, not Alpha Team.
Yeah. Sorry.
Daniel was
I'm reading
too far
his
down.
notes over there. I'm looking at the wrong one.
No, Fabuland is a very, very unusual theme. It has no minifigures. It's actually it's a figure, maybe a minifigure technically, but it's
more
not the traditional.
Akin to Duplo or Jack Stone, I would say.
And they're animals. They're all animal characters. It's almost like a prequel to Chima, maybe.
I was geting ready to say that. This was the first look at humanoid hybrid.
That's the word I was looking for. Humanoid.
Furries.
Nice.
But so Fabuland came out actually. I think it was late '70s.
Yes.
So very early. It's basically like during the time of the earliest minifigures. Yeah. Fabuland was already there.
They were also doing these wacky animal. Yeah.
Yeah. So they produced them for, I think it was like at least 6-8 years, maybe even 10. So
back then they used to run stuff into the Classic Space, like the original Classic Space ran for like 10 plus years or something. So it was the same. This is all the like gray, yellow, and blue classic space. I'm not even talking about the other
Futron
old space themes. Yeah.
No, they'd release a couple sets a year, and then they release a couple sets the next year, and a couple sets the next year.
Yeah.
All the same figures, all the same stuff. So Fabuland has a lot of sets, a lot of characters who you'll see multiple sets.
An enormous dedicated parts catalog.
Yep.
Totally
Unique parts. Yeah. So very, very cool, unusual theme. And as a Lego fan, I didn't really know about this, and I think I might have seen it in a DK reader like a long time ago as a kid, and like barely known of its existence. And then I found it on Bricklink. I was like, there's a ton of Fabuland, and we actually have a little Fabuland section in our store, a pretty good selection of figs and parts. We don't have any sets because they're old. Nobody saved them. Nobody knows about them.
No.
If you ask people, I mean, there's actually a small little group of very significantly older AFOLs who remember Fabuland and build cool mocks out of it.
I see dedicated Fabuland mocks at almost every convention that I go to. I know we have at least one regular here at our store who took something to Atlanta BrickCon. I've seen stuff at Brickworld Chicago.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's a lovely classic to see. You see it and your eyes light up and you smile, right?
Now, that's for more knowledgeable Lego people like us. If you ask somebody walking into this store or any other Lego store, say, hey, have you ever heard of Fabuland? They'd be like, the what now?
Those are the kind of mocks that people take to conventions to show to other Lego fans. They're not for the public days.
Yeah.
The public days.
Yeah, the kids aren't going to know what that is.
They say, oh, look, animal people. And
yeah. Is that Lego?
Yeah.
They might even ask that with
Right.
some of the pieces. So Fabuland, super underrated. There's not much of a collector's market for it yet. There's a couple rare pieces and figures in it, but nothing like exceptional.
Yeah.
So
it did seem like kind of an early transitionary phase between Duplo and Lego probably.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of parts overlap. I'm
or
thinking
big pieces.
specifically of there's some roof pieces where it's like kind of an angled wedge with these shingled roof pieces that it's almost identical. There's a Duplo piece and a scaled down Fabuland piece.
Yep.
A lot of these large hollow building sections with the windows and doors and things built into them. Again, you see them in Duplo and in Fabuland in a smaller scale. So there were a lot of parallelisms for sure.
It's almost a junior's line before it existed.
Exactly, and that's so again kind of Jack Stone-ish, kind of Duplo-ish in both of those senses.
Yeah, but what do you guys think? You think Fabuland is a pretty underrated Lego theme?
I highly agree.
There you go. Highly agree. There
Especially for parts usage. I wouldn't say it's one you'd want to collect a lot of the sets to display on your shelves.
Yeah, there
I
are a
think
lot
it's
of vehicles.
good for characters, vehicles, parts, things, not so much the builds.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough to agree on because he's right. The parts. Yeah, but
is it even worth appreciating?
Who wants Fabuland? Do you know anyone who wants Fabuland?
You must not build enough mocks then to see the
usage of these
parts.
I've seen I get what you're saying. There's cool mocks you can do, but for the Fabuland line, that doesn't include the mocks. You know, so it's not.
Yeah.
Is it underrated?
We
is it
qualified
good?
it for other ones. We said
I
Belleville
love
large
it, but
component was
in a
for
way,
the
I
parts.
guess so.
Maybe that's
if it's
half
for the parts. I'll give it a little bit. But
I agree with this one
just
even more
looking
than
at the
Belleville.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Because I think it's very integral to Lego culture now. You see things that they make references to in modern sets and prints and stickers and things.
Throwbacks.
Right, there was a Lego movie character that has a Fabuland
and
t-shirt
that's true.
You see a lot of this stuff in the Ninjago City sets is where you see the most Easter eggs for Lego history.
Fabuland stickers.
And they're always
There's
the
a
old
Fabuland
obscure
thing
things.
in
You
there.
see Galador references, you see Bionicle references, you see
believe there's Galador
Fabuland, you
references.
see Fabuland
That is not
references.
underrated.
So actually, that probably should have been on this list. I think.
No,
I think it's perfectly rated.
So here's the thing. I think me and Daniel probably would rate Fabuland as more underrated than many because we love those cool. They had unique colors. They had unique pieces, and so for that reason, as a mock builder or someone who builds mocks or appreciates rare, weird pieces, we love it and we think it's underrated. But as somebody who's more like a collector for cool-looking sets, great designs,
like me,
Fabuland did not have exceptional Lego set design at all, by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So
The figures are weird.
If you're leaning more towards that side of Lego
There's a
or
plague
collecting,
Dr. Bird. I mean,
that's true.
It's also very easy to locate the elements and things that are unique to Fabuland because all of the colors and the parts that are unique to Fabuland are cataloged as Fabuland blank.
Yeah.
The colors are Fabuland orange. The
Fabuland
parts
brown.
are Fabuland or vehicle base or Fabuland shovel. Or,
Yeah, it's
they're,
true.
They're all called
quite unique.
Fabuland whatever.
Yeah,
so
Belleville and
if you
Scala don't have
search
that.
Fabuland on Bricklink and go to the parts tab, you can see all of those
Yeah.
Fabuland things immediately, which
Yeah.
is really nice.
So, pretty much
I'll
underrated.
agree, but barely.
I half
Fair enough,
agree
fair
for Joe.
enough.
That's fine. Good
All
to
right.
go. All right.
My last one. This is underrated in the sense that it's something that's been around for a long time, and people like the new stuff, but not a lot of people go after the old stuff. And I'm talking about original Harry Potter. So we're talking about like 2001, 2 era
Yeah.
Harry Potter with the yellow faces. Same goes, pretty much everything I'm going to say here goes for Star Wars, but I can't in good conscience talk about Star Wars in a video that's about underrated
Yeah,
things.
no,
So,
No, not at all is that underrated.
this became kind of a contentious topic, I would say, when the most recent wave of Harry Potter sets started coming out, the anniversary sets that had the sand green roofs again, and everybody starts going, oh, the sand green roofs look terrible, they don't match with my other Hogwarts sets that have the gray roofs. And it's like, okay, but it was a nostalgic reference to the original Harry Potter sets, which have those yellow faces. I have great nostalgia for this because this is actually some of the earliest stuff that I was collecting in terms of things that had, the old gray colors and the yellow-headed licensed things. So I actually have almost all of these sets now, and I have them proudly on display in my collection. The original Hogwarts castle, the Chamber of Secrets, all the stuff that goes under it. And then there were a lot of side builds. You get Hagrid's hut, you get the train, you get everything. So these were really great sets in my opinion because they were coming out as the movies were coming out.
Yes.
Which I think is something that warrants a little bit of attention with any Lego theme. I mean, the original Star Wars ones were obviously decades after the fact. If you're looking at the original trilogy stuff, they were kind of coming out.
Maybe the prequels.
When the
a little
prequels
bit.
were coming out.
Yeah.
But Harry Potter was coming out as the movies were coming out. So you get some really bizarre stuff. The thing that people always talk about is the sets that had the cardboard backing and all the crazy colors. It was like a Diagon Alley one and a Potions Classroom one or something.
Exactly.
I think they must have been designing the sets before the movie had actually come out, and maybe they didn't get a lot of good reference material, and they were just basing it off of the books, because it was very whimsical, to say the least, which was kind of more the spirit of the books than the movies. But apart from those, I think the core first waves of Harry Potter is something that people really sleep on, because people see the new stuff, and it's still currently available, and it's constantly coming out, and they're going after that stuff. There's old stuff that they haven't remade that they might collect, but not a lot of people are collecting the really old stuff.
Yeah.
Same goes for Star Wars. You might see once in a while people will pick up one of the old X-Wings or the old Millennium Falcon, but we get a lot of that stuff sitting in the case for a long time because it's expensive because of how old it is and it's more rare. But people are like, well, why would I want to pay that much for a Millennium Falcon that looks worse than one I could pay cheaper that looks better, that uses modern parts that are more useful? So I think it's kind of prohibitive to collecting in its own way, but I think they're worth it. I really have a soft spot for the nostalgic yellow-faced licensed IP products, which is something that I think is unique to only those two themes. I don't think there were any other licensed themes
With the yellow.
that used yellow faces.
Maybe
Like officially licensed,
maybe
unless
it's-
you're counting that old Jurassic Park.
That's about to say,
stuff.
the Jurassic Park's the only exception. Everything else is
Yeah,
more modern.
I think by the time any other licenses came along, obviously Marvel and DC,
Yeah,
all
wait,
of that stuff was
Pirates of the
well after they
Caribbean,
moved
yeah.
into the flesh tone faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, what do you think, Joe? Agree or disagree?
Well, here's the thing. The reason there's currently Harry Potter sets to buy on the shelves now is because people loved those original Harry Potter sets.
It's true.
That's
There's
the
a
case.
reason they decided to bring it back, so they saw how well these were selling, and they kept selling over the years as they made them. They all started from those classic ones, and they kept selling over the
And Harry
years.
Potter actually went, and people always
And
talk
it
about
stopped.
this. This was also contentious with the anniversary because it was 10 years of Lego Harry Potter, and they took a really long hiatus in the middle of that.
They
And
did.
People
It was
said,
like 2008
well, you
to
haven't made
11.
Harry Potter for 10 years. You've only made it for
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 out of those 10.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
In my opinion, and I definitely would disagree on Star Wars OG.
Yeah,
I think people buy that all the time, and there's definitely way more of a people just want the classic
They do.
stuff.
It sits around for
It
a
does,
while.
and it is also expensive because people want it. But I don't know. That's hard to agree on because there's a reason there's ones on the shelf to buy now, and that's because people appreciate the original ones.
I can see the case.
They
made
did
there.
appreciate. This is more of a modern underrated than an originally underrated.
Yeah, I even now I don't know if the true Harry Potter fans that come and shop, they buy both.
They do buy both.
So I'm
However,
gonna actually.
we have 2 original Dumbledore's offices that have been back there in that case for I don't know how
Are they
many
built
months now.
though?
They're built. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They want the more complete.
We usually have a
sets,
boxed
so-
old one back there at all times too. Yeah.
I would have to disagree.
Okay, wow, I disagree.
All right.
Okay.
All right. A flat out
So,
disagree.
so Daniel, this is an interesting one. I want to disagree, but I have to actually agree
Okay.
because
Oh
a-
man,
a
I was
light
worried I
agree-
was gonna get
No,
two
no, no,
disagrees
no.
there. Oof.
a light agree, not like a full on
Okay,
agree,
a soft agree.
because you see them back there and they're actually, I think, very cheap.
Okay.
I think they're
Without
low
the
price.
minifigures.
Well, no,
is
even a
what we-
boxed one, even a
Okay.
certified one, and I'm like, this is $150. This is a 20-now-year-old set.
Yep.
It's Harry Potter. It's awesome. It has super cool printed pieces.
Oh, yeah,
So
there's
for
bizarre
me,
stuff.
I'm like, that is underrated. This
Yeah.
should be more expensive or should be sold. So I think for that reason they're underrated. I disagree on Star Wars a little bit. I think that there's a little bit more notoriety now.
Yeah.
The last few years.
Now I'm not
2019
talking about 2003 Cloud City. I'm talking
Yeah.
about your 1999, your
Yeah.
2000, your B wing, your A wing, your very first snow speeder.
I still disagree with those.
Some
I
of
do
those
too,
are a
yeah.
little.
I
Not a
can't-
lot
I
of people
can't
are
go
into
with
collecting
that.
those.
They're
Again,
not-
the
they're-
original Millennium Falcon, people are usually into that one. The
Well,
X-wing, people are sometimes into that
I
one.
see your case. At the same time, I would say that there are, in the last few years, especially since COVID, a lot more people are appreciating older Star Wars, I think, than there were.
Yeah.
Because before, absolutely, I agree, old Star Wars. But now, I think there's enough attention there. The price is high. Harry Potter, same year, different story. Still low price. Still doesn't move as fast. I think people are collecting the new ones more than the old ones.
Yep.
And so, a lot, to a huge degree.
For sure.
So, I think that I agree with that one. It's a soft agree, but I agree. So,
Fair enough.
yeah. All right, what's
All right,
your last
yeah, I
thing
was
here,
like,
Joe?
I'm up next. What do I got? So this is one that I recently have become to appreciate more because we built it on the joy of building. Several of these have come from that.
Yep.
Because I just didn't pay attention to them. I just see prices in my head a lot.
Therefore,
because
immediately underrated because you didn't know.
I'm just not paying attention to some sets, but it's Lone Ranger, and this is a really cool line of sets. Like the sets are phenomenal, the minifigures are phenomenal, and I
Well
know
made.
I know what sunk this, and it's the movie. I haven't seen it, but I've heard from many people that they did not like the movie, so people didn't want to buy the sets. Like at first, people were buying them before the movie came out, but then the movie came out and people just stopped buying them because they're like,
That was literally what happened.
they just didn't really want them. So, we don't see them very often because there's not a lot of circulation. And people don't ask for them a lot. There are some people that come in like, hey, you got any Lone Ranger? But usually those people don't want them for the Lone Ranger. They want them because they're cool. Western
Cool
sets.
terrain.
You want Western.
And
Yeah.
that's the people who actually are still buying it. It's not anything about the Lone Ranger.
No.
So I think it's underrated for being, a sought after theme. And obviously that's the movie's fault, but I think these could be appreciated a lot more as Westerns. Because, the one we built was, Fight Across the City, which is like
Pulp City
every
Showdown, yeah.
every Western. Then there's a
I've
train.
been trying to figure out what it is with Western being so hot right now. I know a lot of our viewers are always looking for it.
Yeah.
So leave a comment explaining why everyone's...
Why
is
do you
it
want
because
Western?
of like shows like Yellowstone and things that are out right now? Or
Might be.
what's the other one? 1912
I don't know.
or something? Whatever the Western shit. Let me know why everyone's so into Western right now, because I'm trying to figure out why it's coming back in such a major
And
way.
also, why aren't you buying Lone Ranger?
That's
well,
true.
I can understand if they're into Western why they're not buying that. But
Well, and that's why I think people who are into Westerns are like, that was not a good Western, I guess. So they want to stay away from it, despise
that's
it.
like saying you should buy the Toy Story Woody Showdown set if you're into Western.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Constitution train,
Yeah.
a very classic
Very good
old
one.
train. I know train people appreciate that.
Yes.
Do
Because
they?
They should. Do they not?
I don't
I'll
know.
have to ask Corey. Let me ask
I think
Corey.
it's
I'll ask Corey
it's a
later.
collectible set. People buy that one.
and that
I don't
is
know.
definitely
I feel
the
like I don't
most
see that in a
expensive
lot
one.
of train collections.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I wouldn't be shocked if it
Again,
wasn't.
same thing with the
But-
Toy Story, Toy Story train.
No,
You're getting us derailed here.
Yeah.
I'm
Dan.
sorry.
You're
Good one, Mark.
wrong.
Yay.
You're wrong. These are not similar.
Okay,
But
well-
I just think it's a very cool Western theme that
Mhm.
should be appreciated. I mean, a stagecoach. When else have we gotten a stagecoach?
Yeah, really
I
not
don't think
often.
we've really gotten any good stagecoach. So it's just some
Yeah,
unique.
Bobaton carriage, Mary Potter maybe is kind of like a
Yeah, that's a stretch.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's newer. So
Yeah.
Pegasus is pulling that. I don't know. Okay.
yeah.
You take
So
those
I
off.
think it's a very
the
underrated
wings
theme as a Western. Like this is great sets, great designs. It's just because it was Lone Ranger, people don't want it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think that it's not like a 100% gung ho, but it's a pretty solid agree
Yeah.
because when this first came out, I remember buying sets at this time. I actually bought some of the Lone Ranger sets before watching the movie. Everyone was excited for them. They were selling well, like a normal Lego theme. As soon as the movie dropped in theaters, nobody wanted to be seen with a Lone Ranger set, and so they just tanked it. It really changed the way that theme has evolved, and I think now there is some appreciation for them, but still not enough because of that big tank and that underappreciation.
Mhm.
I think that these Lego sets are great. The figures are cool. The movie must have been terrible, but yeah, so underrated. I would agree. So.
This is, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. This
Okay.
is a really interesting trend I've noticed lately in terms of when Lego products for movies like this release. They used to come out beforehand because the Lego was used as marketing for the movie,
Mhm.
right? The Lego built hype for the movie. So the sets were coming out, not even leaked. The sets were available
Yeah.
months before the release of the movie to build excitement. It didn't spoil the movie.
Yeah.
You got to know the characters, you get to play
Yeah.
with the scenes, make up your own story, go see the movie, right? We're moving a little bit later. It starts pushing to kind of come out at the same time so that the hype is kind of connected between them. The movie drives the sales of Lego, the Lego drives the sales of the movie, right? It was also because I think Lego leaks were starting to become a bigger thing, and movie companies were probably getting frustrated if they did have stuff that they didn't want getting
Marvel,
leaked.
yeah.
Now it's the opposite. You see stuff coming out after, if not well after.
A year
with the
after.
exception of
Yeah.
maybe Avatar was kind of a recent exception.
Yeah,
But I'm thinking more stuff like around The Mandalorian, things like that.
you'll see it come out right after and stuff like that.
Yeah, the very first season of Mandalorian, those sets didn't come out till like a year after.
We got one
when you
set,
got the Razor
which was the
Crest with the baby
ATST,
Grogu.
the ATST Raider. We got like right when it started coming out, and everyone
Right.
was like, "Okay." And then yeah, like you said, it was like half a year later,
Long time.
and
yeah,
then
long
we
time
got
after.
some sets.
Now we're kind of moving back towards the middle. I'm actually very pleased with this current season
Yeah.
of Mandalorian where we're getting sets released like
After
the same
the
week as the
episode, yeah,
episode.
which is
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
exactly
So
what we
anyway,
want.
just an interesting trend I've noticed in terms of
Yeah,
the shift of when products release in conjunction with the IP that they're based on.
that's fair.
Good thoughts, Daniel.
Yeah.
Do you agree that Lone Ranger is underrated, possibly?
I very much compartmentalized the Lone Ranger in the same bucket with Prince of Persia because they were both stinker movies that came out that
But the
had
sets are
some
really
good
cool.
sets. I would, if I was going to choose between the two, though, I would have chosen to do Prince of Persia over Lone Ranger. I think the Lone Ranger sets were more appreciated at the time they came out because they were something more generally enjoyable.
Yeah,
Western is
the
a better
train-
theme. Prince of Persia, people kind of saw these sets and said, "Oh, this is kind of a odd, like Middle Eastern thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Niche,
not sure
yeah.
I really vibe with this." I got one set, I think, from each. From Lone Ranger, I had the one that was like the mine shaft,
Yeah.
and from Prince of Persia, I had the one that had like the big saw blades and the traps
Yeah.
and stuff, because
Mhm.
that was very kind of Indiana Jones, really, to me.
Yeah.
Was why I bought that one. But I would say that Prince of Persia was more underrated. They're both modern underrated, but I think
Originally underrated.
Prince of Persia was more originally underrated as well, as
yeah.
opposed to
So
that.
very light underrated.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very light.
Agreement. Well, I mean, it's an
Sounds
agree.
good.
I'll take an agree.
All right, so this might be controversial. We got the last theme
Round us out.
that's
Take
underrated.
us home. Take us home.
Is gonna
Oh, my
be
butt hurts.
Alpha Team / Agents.
Yeah.
And so this is a theme. Alpha Team came out pretty early. It would have been like mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
No,
It was
no,
well,
early-
there were
Early 2000s, might have
There
been
were three different
1999,
waves.
2000. Yeah.
It might have been 2000.
I think it's
no, because the
2002.
last one was 2004.
Was
It could be. I think it could be 2, 3, and 4, maybe.
I could be right. Let's see if I'm right.
Anyway, early 2000s probably. And so I remember growing up with these sets, so that would have been the right year going through there. And 3 different waves for Alpha Team. I think Agents had at least 1 or 2 series. And then there's Ultra Agents that preceded it very quickly after. I'm not counting Ultra Agents because I think that they do have enough appreciation, especially for the cool figures they had. Anyway, what do we got?
2001.
2001.
2001.
2, 3. So 2003 only had 1 set, and then
That was an
2004
extra set.
had 8 set.
Okay. Yeah.
So Chris is watching us. Yeah.
Doing a little bit.
We got a window over there. Anyway, so Alpha Team I think is a very underrated theme because, first of all, if you're thinking of secret agents,
2001.
you go to Ultra Agents because that's the most recent one. They had some really cool, colorful sets. You look up Alpha Team, a lot of people don't know these sets. I'm actually not even super familiar with these. I grew up with these, and I wanted these, and I had some of these figures, and I didn't always... I don't know them that well because we don't see them that often. I think they sold okay because there was 3 different waves of them, but not amazing.
There are some standout sets. I mean, the like Ogle's base one.
Yeah, with
So
the rocket
cool.
ship.
The one with the rocket ship, you see that.
Mhm.
Then there was the second wave, which had like the underwater base.
Yeah.
I guess that was also Ogle's base. And then the
ice one, I
third
think,
one
is-
was honestly okay. The best selling set from each, or the best set from each wave was probably the
Ogle's.
villain.
Yeah.
the Ogle's base
lair.
from each one.
Now, Ogle is an iconic Lego figure, but not everyone knows that he's from Alpha Team specifically,
Yeah,
or what
that's
sets
fair.
he's from. Maybe
We've seen a couple Alpha Team references in modern things. Ogle's been referenced, I think, on the obelisk in the haunted house set,
Yep.
as well as the like little mind control bombs things was in that
Yep.
set as
So
well.
a few throwbacks for sure.
That could just be Carl Marion with
Yeah,
what he's into.
Carl
though.
or Mike.
Carl or
Yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
And Ogle is Lego spelled backwards, so it's a classic Lego
Right.
villain.
Right.
Yeah. And these weren't like amazing sets at the time, but I think they're cool. Especially the first wave and the third wave are more cool to me than the second wave. Second wave was a lot of missed opportunities. They took a
Yeah.
deep dive in the underwater.
Yeah, there
you
it
know,
is. There it
yeah.
is. They got a little misguided on that one. They started using things that looked like Galador limbs
Yeah.
on some of those sets.
So that was a bad time for Lego part design in the early 2000s. That would have been 2002
So what did we
and
decide?
3.
Yeah,
2
it
or
was.
3 would
It
have been
was
the second
2002,
wave?
yeah.
Okay.
I also
that makes
throw
sense.
Agents in there too because when I think of Lego Secret Agents, I actually think of Lego Ultra Agents first. I think a lot of people nowadays
Yeah.
do too. Because if you type in Lego Agents and you scroll down, Ultra Agents shows up first because they actually had apps, they had website integration, they had all this, a lot more technology. Agents was between them, got kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Alpha Team also has a few iconic moments, but also swept under the rug, slept on. So that's my feeling. And I do like a lot of these sets. I don't collect them, but I think they're pretty cool. Very unusual face printing, some interesting. Some of them are not so good. Some of them are great. Like I love the guy with. I think his name is. It's not Flash. It might be Flash. Anyway, he has a big grin on his face, like an absolute. It's like most of the head is an open mouth that's like yeah.
From Agents?
Oh, I know who
Yeah,
you're
from
talking
Alpha
about.
Team.
Alpha
Oh,
Team.
okay. I don't know those characters.
And so they're fun. And like Dash, he was so cool. They had video games on the LegoWeb.com
Yeah.
website, comics and stuff. But yeah, so I think underrated, just like slept on, not so much seen. They're all very cheap, except for the Agents ones can get a little pricey for some of the missions, especially with the metallic pieces.
Yeah.
But like some of those Agent sets are just cheap
Well,
and
that's
you
what I
never
was
see
gonna say.
them.
I see a lot of these sealed Agent sets come in, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go price them, and I'm like, really?
Yeah,
That's it?
And we're not going to sell it for a long time. We have a couple sitting out there
and
still.
I'm like,
So
this
yeah.
is a cool set. And I remember as a kid in those, like I was telling him, I saw the ninja in those books. I also saw like all these different Agents figures, and like the villains are awesome, and their
Yeah.
names are
The villains
so
are the best.
funny.
Yeah.
Dynamite, the gold tooth guy, and then they're
yeah.
really great.
Well, this is what I love about Agents. So, okay, Alpha Team was these are both like James Bond or Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Secret
But
Agents.
with Alpha Team, they were facing the same villain all the time on these kind of
Yeah.
zany adventures. Was a little more adventurers in the spirit of
Yeah.
adventures for me. With Agents, it was a little more in the spirit of almost like Marvel or something.
Batman,
you get these
DC, yeah.
these kind of crazy. Some of them were like disfigured or had like
Yeah, there was one that literally
crazy
is, like,
tattoos or
toxic.
hair colors or things. So they were a little more fantastic villains, but there were a lot of them. So it's
Yeah.
like you've got these threats coming from all these directions. the agents' vehicles, apart from the headquarters base, were a little lackluster. The color scheme was fairly simple.
Dark blue and silver and lime green.
Yeah,
maybe.
the silver parts were certainly nice to get back then, but I mean, who doesn't love a good villain vehicle, right?
Yeah.
You get some, especially with the crazy theming.
Volcano layer, big mechs.
Yeah, the guy with the crazy flame hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're saying, Gold Tooth, the toxic guy. Let's see, who
there's
else
the
do we
whole
have?
the mobile base that they redid in
Oh
Ultra
man,
Agents.
do I even need to talk about the giant
Yeah,
sharks?
Laser
I know.
sharks.
Laser sharks.
Yeah, the
They
sharks with
reference
freaking
these.
laser
They
beams.
reference these in Lego movies.
This was also where you got the, well, it wasn't in this
Glow-in-the-dark
set. It was
squid,
the
right?
submarine. Yeah, the glow-in-the-dark squid came from this. One of
great
my
stuff.
favorite functions from the truck was the projector. There was actually a light brick and like a piece with transparent printing that you could project on the wall.
glow-in-the-dark
Yeah, there's
squid.
the toxic.
That's
guy
$100
too, so
squid now, yeah.
Fantastic villains. I love a good
I
villain
100%
story.
agree with that.
Yeah. So, would you guys agree that Alpha Team and Agents are underrated?
I would
Alpha
agree
Team,
with.
you get a soft underrated.
That's what I was
Agents,
about-
you get a very strong.
Okay.
I
underrated.
very
So
much
overall-
agree. I very much
Yeah.
agree with Agents.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely underrated.
That was between two more notable themes, I
Exactly.
think.
Agents is the lost middle child, I think,
Yes.
between Alpha Team and Ultra Agents.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Agents,
Alpha Team.
I think
would-
did it better than Alpha Team, but I think people remember Alpha Team more because it came first.
Ogle,
and then now
iconic,
Ultra Agents has kind of overshadowed it, but I still care for Agents more.
Glossed
That
over,
is
yeah.
one that I had as a kid that I am more nostalgic for.
There you go.
And,
Agents
and
was the
regret
one.
parting out.
Agents was the one I wanted as a kid and never got.
There you go. I remember looking at these in magazines and thinking, these are pretty cool. I was a
Yeah.
little bit older at that time, and I was still thinking, where's Castle?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Agents gets a strong review. Alpha Team barely.
yeah,
I'll
a
let it
little
slide. Okay, underrated sort of. But sounds good. Well, yeah. So I think that overall, pretty underrated. We even
Yeah.
agreed with our own picks
Yeah.
for the most part. A few dislikes here and there, but
I know there's going to be some more that y'all can cook up. So
Yeah,
let
definitely.
us
If
know.
any that you guys think of that we missed, please tell us and give us your reason why you think it's underrated. Also, if you disagree with us, please let us know why you
We've
disagree
clearly
with us.
been very nitpicky
Yeah.
and picking these apart in what way they're underrated.
Yeah.
So
and,
definitely let us know how you feel about this. You can
Yeah.
you can tell us we're wrong if you want.
yeah, this is
That's-
one of the most opinionated Between the Studs episodes
Oh,
we've
very
had in
much.
a
We
while.
really much
this is
enjoy.
very subjective territory.
Yes.
We enjoy arguing between ourselves, but we also enjoy getting to see what you guys think about it. And if
Yeah.
you disagree with us, we want to know why too. It's just fun for us to read the comments.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and sharing
Yeah.
your underrated themes with us.
Definitely.
And we'll be back with more videos next time.
Hit the like button if you enjoyed this discussion.
And
Subscribe.
subscribe.
Bye-bye.